Hey YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and we've got your Week 9 start and sit video for the wide receiver position. Hopefully you guys have checked out our other videos, running backs and quarterbacks, and then of course we'll be doing our tight end video as well to help you guys with Week 9. We're getting closer and closer to those playoffs, so every victory matters, and hopefully these videos have helped you guys out. If you guys do have questions for your lineups, or maybe have trade questions because deadlines are probably coming up this week or next, hit us in the comments down below. We'll be able to help answer those out. Now, 4 teams are to buy: Lions, Jaguars, Broncos, and 49ers. So there are some decent wide receivers not playing this week that you have to take account for. And of course, some injuries and things like that that we're always going to be dealing with in the fantasy world. Now, these are your obvious wide receivers you should play this week. There's obviously not as big of a list because of the buys, injuries, and things like that. But I like these options that, again, should just be your obvious. Without question, you're putting them in your lineup. No second guessing at all. Now, the first receiver I like this week is going to be Zay Flowers versus the Seahawks. Zay is going into a great matchup against Seattle. They're allowing 17.9 points a game, a touchdown per game to wide receivers as well. And realistically, Zay is the clear wide receiver one. Now, Odell has been getting a lot more targets his way, which is great news for him. And it does affect Zay Flowers a little bit, but I really like this matchup for Zay. They move him around a lot. They put him in the slot. They move him outside. His skill set is really good and a great matchup against Seattle. Now, he will probably have Tariq Woolen covering him a little bit. We'll see how that plays out with that matchup. But because they move Zay around a lot, again, I like this one for him. He is a solid wide receiver 2 with some wide receiver 1 upside in this matchup. Another receiver I like this week is going to be Adam Thielen versus the Colts. Now, you're probably putting him as an obvious at this point because of how great he has been this season. Even though the Panthers aren't winning, he has played very well. Colts are horrendous against the pass. They're allowing 20.7 points a game, 180 yards in the air to wide receivers, and Thielen has been targeted early and often. He's going into this week at wide receiver 8, which no one had seen coming, right? He was getting drafted in the mid to late rounds. He is an absolute steal this season. I love him this week for this matchup. A perfect one for him. Another wide receiver I like this week is going to be Garrett Wilson versus the Chargers. Now, sure, Chargers shut down DJ Moore. Only left him with 9 points. But that's a whole different situation. Like, the quarterback situation in Chicago is definitely different than Zach Wilson. Hate to say it, but Zach Wilson is absolutely a better quarterback than Badgett. And this is a really good matchup. Zach has still allowed Garrett Wilson to have some fantasy value, whether it be low wide receiver 2 value or flex play. And this is a really good matchup against the Chargers. Chargers are allowing 20.7 points a game. Again, allowing 1 touchdown per game as well. That's where Garrett Wilson has really shined. He's been a great red zone threat. He's got a good, really rapport with Zach Wilson, even though we all would love to see more out of this quarterback. He does have some value. Garrett Wilson is a solid wide receiver 2. Again, like Zay Flowers with wide receiver 1 upside because of the matchup that he's in. I love Garrett Wilson this week. Another wide receiver I like this week is going to be Drake London versus the Vikings. Now, the Vikings defense has gotten a little bit better, but not great. They're still allowing 182 yards to wide receivers, 17.8 points. And now with the news of Desmond Ridder getting benched, Taylor Heineke's coming in, I actually think this value for London and Kyle Pitts has absolutely skyrocketed. You got a nice savvy vet quarterback. He's not afraid to throw down the field. He's a very smart IQ type of player. He's going to be, again, not afraid to throw down the field, not afraid to make plays. He doesn't have to worry about overthinking, right? Like, that's where I think Heineke is going to have that over Desmond Ridder. I really like this for London. Great matchup. Again, great move for the Falcons, who are trying to make the playoffs. London should be a start. Now, the first receiver I'm considering sitting is going to be Marquise Brown versus the Browns. Yeah, man. This is going to all come down to the quarterback situation. Right now, they have not announced who is going to start a quarterback ever since they announced Josh Dobbs going to Minnesota. So, Kyler Murray could come back. Nope, don't know for sure. Most likely, I think Clayton Tune plays this week, which is why I'm down on Hollywood Brown. And on top of that, the Browns defense is pretty good. My concern is that this defense is going to get after Tune. They're going to be able to, again, rush really well. Browns are only allowing 14 points to wide receivers. And if there's no time for Clayton, Marquise is not going to have a great game. He's not going to get the targets. He might get 5 receptions in this game. Maybe I get squeaky into that double digit type of performance. Maybe a low end flex, but I'm really nervous. Now, if Kyler Murray plays, I might change that up a little bit. You may want to consider him as a nice little flex, maybe a wide receiver 2. But at this moment, I'm sitting him. Another receiver I'm sitting is Puka Nacua versus the Packers. First time I'm mentioning that all season. Like, Puka has been great. Now, he got shut down last week against the Cowboys, but also Cooper Kupp didn't play well. Then Matthew Stafford got hurt, and that's really the biggest concern right now. Matthew Stafford hurt his throwing hand, and that is going to play a huge factor in this. Packers aren't great against the pass. They're about average. Now, Jair Alexander, if he's playing, that plays a big factor. He's most likely going to cover Cooper Kupp, but he might play against an opposite of Nacua. So that's still something to consider because Jair Alexander is a good cornerback. Like, yeah, Addison had a good game last week against him, but Alexander's a really good cornerback. Packers defense definitely gets better when he does play. But with that Stafford injury, that really concerns me. I'd like to see a little bit more how this plays out. I'm going to sit Puka if I can. Another receiver I'm considering sitting is going to be Jordan Addison versus the Falcons. It's not so much because of Addison. A lot of it has to do with the quarterback play. Atlanta's okay. Atlanta just got torched right now. Like, they just got torched big time. So it is hard to sit Addison because of the way the Falcons have been playing recently against the pass. They have allowed a lot of points. They're allowing, I think right now it was 11 touchdowns so far this season, and Addison has 7, which is amazing for him. So I understand the idea of possibly, having to put him in your lineup because the matchup looks pretty good. But with the whole Kirk, injury, Dobbs isn't coming in at the quarterback right now. So, like, that's scary, right? Like, you don't know how this is going to play out with Hull. So at this current moment, if I have other options, I'm sitting Addison and putting somebody else in. Now, the last receiver I'm sitting this week is going to be DJ Moore versus the Saints. Again, it's all about quarterback play. Right now, if Fields was playing, I feel a lot more confident. But the Saints defense is actually pretty good. Like, they're pretty good against the wide receiver. You got Lattimore who's going to be covering him, which obviously always plays really well against DJ Moore in the past when they played against each other. When the whole Panthers Saints, they're only allowing 15 points a game. Like, this is a tough matchup. If you have to play him, it's going to be more flex option, more so than in anything else. But for this particular moment, I'm sitting DJ Moore. I'm looking at other options just because I don't feel confident in this one. Now, my sleeper of the week is going to be DeAndre Hopkins versus the Steelers for the Thursday night game. You could even put Deontay Johnson. I like him a lot this week as well. But I have D-Hop in here because realistically, this is a great matchup. He's got some confidence in Levis, right? Levis looked really good in his first game, throwing 4 touchdowns. I'm not looking to see that type of replication. I'm looking at a nice solid game, no turnovers, a touchdown or 2. D-Hop's got a great matchup where the Steelers are allowing 25.2 points a game. They're allowing a touchdown per game. Like, this is a really good matchup for him to play really well. This is going to be a nice little fun game on Thursday night. I know it's not the best game out there, but I still think it's going to be fun to watch. Everyone's looking to see what Will Levis is going to do in his second start. I think he's going to, again, revive this offense. He's got a great connection with Hopkins already. I really like Hopkins this week. So those are my start and sits for the wide receiver position of week 9. If you guys do have questions for your lineup, again, hit us up in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys are trying to figure out. If you have trade questions, let me know. Make sure you guys are following us on X and Instagram as well. Also, make sure you guys are subscribed. We've got a lot of great content trying to help you guys out with this fantasy season. Make sure that notification bell is on. Also, while you're here, don't forget to hit the like button. Check out our other start and sit videos, and I'll check you guys out next time.